Hi, this is Dany Tee from the Argentinian atmospheric black metal Los Males del Mundo, and you are listening to The Bloodshed with the Vampire on Metal Messiah Radio International.
Dany, it's a great pleasure to have you here, and I want to welcome you to the Metal Bloodshed with the Vampire on Metal Messiah Radio International.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure for me.
Okay, you're very welcome. Dany, first of all, I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate you for the Los Males del Mundo new album, Descents Toward Death.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We are very happy with that album, and I'm very happy that you like it as well.
Okay, how was it releasing, not one, but two albums, an EP and a full-length during the pandemic?
Yeah, it was funny because we were working on this project for maybe 3-4 years since when we started with this. When we have it ready, we get caught with the pandemic. So it was very weird, but I think we were lucky because the audience really liked the EP, and of course they also like the album as well. So we're very happy with the reception of the audience and with the public that they give us a great feedback.
Okay, that's very great to hear. Seeking the results and hearing myself the album, what a great album. I'm talking about Descents Toward Death. But since it's the very first full-length album of the band, will there be changes into the sound direction of the bands for future releases?
I don't think so, because I think that we are really happy with the result. I think we will continue with this type of approach that we have on this album. Of course, we will try to make some improvements, with the songwritings and with the sound quality here and there. But I think that we will keep the approach and the sound that has the album.
Dany, I have not got a chance to visit Argentina as yet, but with high hopes to be there very soon. How are the metal scene doing in Buenos Aires and in Argentina in general? Especially talking about the black metal scene.
Well, we don't have a big scene in Argentina because if you compare Argentina with other countries in the region, you will notice that there's a lot of different countries that have a huge metal scene. For example, Chile and, for example, Brazil. And in Argentina, it's very, very small, the metal scene. And if you're talking about extreme metal or even black metal, it's even smaller. So we did have a few bands in the 90s, but they were more focused into, the more raw sound, the true black metal sound. It was very, very small scene. Nowadays are a little bit more extended, but it's not that big at another country. But we still have a couple great bands here.
Okay, yeah, as long you can tell me that you see that the scene in general, it doesn't matter what type of subgenre, that the metal scene is becoming much popular, that it gets more attention nowadays. That's very great to hear.
Yeah, I think that it has to be, with internet and the ability to get in touch with the scene and the new music that is released. Back in the 90s, it was very difficult to keep old releases, and back then it was very hard. Nowadays, it's a little bit easier, but still it's not as big as you can see in other countries like, for example, Chile, as I told you before,
Okay, you're talking about, the metal scene itself, but I want to go back, for the fans that, especially to get to know you much better as a musician, Dany. Who inspired you from your early days up to now to become a metal musician?
Well, I think when I was very young, I was always interested in music in general. But I think that when I was 10 years old, I get into punk music and metal music. And from that moment, I always try to get more into extreme music like thrash music or death metal music, until I found black metal. At that point, something happened to me, and it was, this is my thing. I keep listening to a lot of different genres, but I think that what changed me in a good way was to start to listen to black metal in the 90s, with the first albums from Emperor, Dark Throne, Ulver, and, of course, Dean Borgir, Cradle of Filth, and Dissection, and all of those bands were like my influences.
Okay. But when you was growing, like you said, with 10 years old that you started to listen to punk and to metal. But do you have an older brother? Do you have a good friend or colleagues at school that start to listen metal or any kind of rock with them?
Yeah, I have my cousin. He was 2 years older than me, and he has his friends who share with them, metal and more extreme metal. So that was, I think, one of my first approaches to extreme metal. So I think that was the way that I took back then. As long as you get older, you start to pick in everything that you like the most.
Okay. Dany, we know that you are very busy as well. I mean, busy working with other bands. And we're referring to Silent Mort, either in Element, Plaguestorm, Downfall of Nur. You did some collaboration with Antonio Sana from this band, Downfall of Nur.
That's right.
Explain us a little bit about this collaboration with Antonio.
Yeah, well, Antonio is a great musician. We get in touch, I think it was 2014, I think. He wrote me and he knew what I was doing back then. And he asked me for collaboration in a couple songs, and we started working together. And what was Umbras de Barbagia, that album was great. I was the vocalist for that album, and I also did some productions on it. And then we did the same thing for the split that we recorded a couple years before that. We did a split with Selvans, an Italian band. And it was great experience. He's a great musician, and I'm really proud of that album. I still listen to it nowadays. Now, I know that Antonio right now is working in a new album, but I think it's totally another concept. We talked a little bit. I don't know if I could do something on that, because Downfall of Nur, it's a very personal project from Antonio, but I think that the new album he's working on will be great. I think he will do a great job by his own.
But at the same time, you also busy with the international Acathexis with members like Olmo Lipani of the Belgium DIA and Jacob Bukasaski of the American Maricon Cognitum. How are these projects going? What can you tell us about the 2018 self-titled release? And are you now working on new albums?
Yeah, that's right. It's a great project. Dia and Jake are both excellent musicians, and they are great producers as well. So we recorded that album a couple years ago, and it was released by Fallen Empire, and it has a great reception. Now we are working on the second album, which I had to write some lyrics and I had to do the vocal recordings. I had to work on that, and I hope that we could have the new album for this year.
Okay, that's very great to know. But tell me, I didn't know about this concept, if I can say like this concept. I mean, Acathexis, until you told me about Dany. And I must say, this 2018 album, I check it out. What a great album. What a great music you guys put out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of that album too. I think we did a great job there. The music, it was from Dea. He had all these ideas and he worked with us small details about we put on this album. But for this new album that we are working, Jake will put a lot of his tracks and a lot of his new things into it. I think it's going to be great because Jake is a great musician. He has his own project, Mare Cognitum, and he also released a new album a couple weeks ago, which is great. So I'm very, very anxious about this new release. I think it's going to be actually great. I can't wait for finish it.
Yeah, to continue with this interview, Dany, it's so great talking to you. Let the fans get to know you much better with all these projects you're busy with. Yes, to what we're here for. Los Males del Mundo, formed in 2016 in Buenos Aires, the capital of the charming Argentina, by you, drummer, vocalist Dany Tee from bands like Acathexis, to say some, and guitarist Cristian Yans of Eroica. Los Males del Mundo translate in Spanish as the evils of the world. Dany, how the history started? I'm talking about Los Males del Mundo, and where did Chris came along?
Well, we started talking about this project in 2016. We knew each other for more than a decade, and we always try to do something together. Chris is a great musician. He has been working on different projects and different bands, from melodic death metal to doom metal. So we always try to do something together, but we have a very busy schedule, so we could never do this. So one day we said, it's enough. We should have to start working on something together. And we put a lot of ideas on this one. We were very clear about what we're gonna do and what we're gonna get from this.
Yes, Los Males del Mundo combine today's modern black metal sound with late 90s melodic black metal with lyrics deeply influenced by Friedrich Nietzsche and Schopenhauer, German philosopher, and Emil Cioran, Romanian philosopher, later joined by bassist Nikita Kamprad of German black metal band Der Einer Freiheit as a producer and guest musician. What is the most that have inspired you, Dany, about these great philosophers that you guys has dedicated these albums of this band for?
Yeah, I always try to write about philosophical subjects, and I've been reading a lot. Not only these three philosophers, but thinkers. I also get inspired from different readings. But this project, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to have more philosophical approach. So that's why I took these three philosophers, but not the philosophers itself, but their idea about human nature. And I try to put it, in this lyrics to make this album possible.
But besides this project, Los Males del Mundo, these philosophers, you are inspired by them already by reading their books?
Yeah, I used to read a lot of those authors. I remember when I was a kid, the first time I read a book from Nietzsche, I was 10 years, I think. At that time, I didn't catch all the things right correctly, but it really gave me a great impression of his ideas, and I try to keep reading his work. And of course, I always read a lot of different authors and philosophers. In this case, I work with a lot of ideas of Schopenhauer, and I think that it fits perfectly what I tried to say for this album and the full concept. So I think it works very well.
Okay, but talking about Nikita Kamprad, yes, this friendship and collaboration with Nikita of Der Einer Freiheit, how did it start?
Well, we were friends since 2009. We started talking when he released the first album from the big Einer Freiheit, and we always try to do something together, but the same that happens to me with Chris, we always have very tight schedule. So when I started talking with Chris about making this project, back then I was talking also with Nikita about doing something together. So I was like, why we don't three of us work on the same same project. So Nikita was very busy at that time with the big Einer Freiheit because he's the leader and the main composer of that band. So he wanted to participate in this project. So he recorded the bass line for this one, and he made the mixing and the mastering. He works as a producer as well.
Okay. To go forward with this interview, Dany, on October 12th, you guys have released independently via Bandcamp your first EP, self-titled, with 2 tracks on. How was this EP received among fans or on friends? And why have you waited so long to release this debut EP?
Well, the EP, it has a very good reception. These 2 tracks for this EP were the first track that we composed for this project. And those tracks are more into more melodic black metal rather than the other tracks of the album, which are more into atmospheric black metal. So this EP has 2 tracks, approximately 15 minutes of length of this EP, and it was recorded at the same time as the album. The sound quality is pretty much the same, but these tracks were the first tracks that we created, so maybe are a little bit more direct, are a little bit more melodic black metal. But the fans love it, and we are very proud of this EP too as well, because it has a lot of melodies. It's very aggressive too. Yeah, I think it's great.
How come you have waited so long before releasing this EP?
Yeah, because the whole process was very difficult. The process of recording and composing, we were like doing all the composing and all the recordings like in a circle. We start with an idea and we made the melody, and then we record some drum patterns, and then I write some lyrics on it. And then we listen to the whole track. And if we were not 100% happy with it, we start all over. So that was the process for each track. That's why we took so long to have all these tracks ready. And at the same time, we were working in the sound quality and how to record something. And we changed a lot of things during the process. And we thought that it could be a better way to work with this if we start all over again. So it was a very, very long process that took us maybe 2 years, maybe 2-3 years. After that, we had to wait until Nikita had the time to mix it. And then we were looking for a label to release it, so that we wait a little bit more. That's why the whole process took 3-4 years.
Okay, tell me, since you guys have released this debut EP, that kind of shape up the band sound and inspire you guys to release now in 2021 your first full-length effort titled Descents Toward Death, which was recorded at the Studio Carmen in Argentina, produced, mixed, and mastered in Duisburg, Germany, like you said, Dany, by Nikita himself. How was the making of this album gone? I'm talking about the songwriting, the recording at Studio Carmen in Argentina, and finally the mixing master in Germany by Nikita.
Yeah, it was a very particular process. The studio is the studio that has Chris at his home. So I practically moved there for the whole process. I think it was like 2 years approximately. I didn't move properly, but I was living there pretty much 24/7, you know. I just leave the studio for work in my profession, and then I went back to the studio and keep working on this album. So it was very, very intense work. We tried to put our best into this album, this whole album, and also the EP, because it was all work, you know, like in the same time period. So we did a lot of changes during that. We spent a lot of nights working on this tirelessly, you know. Every weekend we spent together working until we thought that it was the correct sound, the correct tune, the correct riff.
But having Nikita in Germany, that made it much more difficult to see the time difference.
Yeah, we talked a lot through video conference and by phone. Of course, we learned a lot from Nikita. He's a great producer, and we have our ideas of how we wanted to sound this album. So we changed different ideas and approaches, and he advised us to do it this way or another way. So we do the recordings, and we always work together on this. But it was a very, very hard process. I wrote the drums for this album. I didn't play the drums with real drums. I programmed the drums, and I was very, very obsessive with the sound of the drums because I wanted to get them sound the more natural as possible. So we talk a lot with Nikita about how to achieve this, and I think that the three of us did a great job because I'm very, very happy with the final result of all this work that we were doing during all these years.
Talking about this album, last December 18, 2020, your first official single titled The Silent Agony was finally released, premiered worldwide as a preview of your debut album titled Descents Toward Death. Dany, I believe a better way for you to have given this new album to know impossible. What a great, awesome song. I mean, The Silent Agony. Tell us more about this. How have you decided, first of all, to choose this as the promotional song? And what else about this song? I mean, for those who don't know it yet.
Well, the whole album is conceptual work. It's a conceptual album, and it has a lot of different genres you can hear in this album. It's very complex, very different from one track to another. We thought that The Silent Agony just condensed in approximately 8 minutes just what the whole album was about. So we chose that track as a preview of the whole album, but it has, as I told you before, a lot of black metal influences from the late 90s, but it also has a lot of things from different genres like doom metal, and you can hear even classical heavy metal touches here and there in this album. So it's very complex with a lot of different things. We try to put everything that we like into this album. So it's very honest album because we didn't want it to sound like that or like that band. We wanted to do the best that we could do with all what we wanted to achieve with these tracks.
Okay, Dany, thank you very much for describing this album. The album was released on February 26, 2021 under the label Northern Silence Production. How are the promotions, album distribution, and everything in general going with Northern Silence Production so far, Dany?
Well, Northern Silence, it turns out that it's a great label. They were very, very open-minded with us, and I think they try to do the best they can with the album, and they are always helping us and listen to our suggestions about our ideas, and we are very happy to work with them. They released the album with this digipack limited edition, 500 copies, and then we are working on jewel case CD, and that would be unlimited, and the album is going to be released on vinyl and on tape, but due to COVID-19 and all the delays with the factory, I think that the vinyl is going to be available on September approximately, but it's on the making right now.
But tell me, are they going to be available in different colors as well?
Yeah. It's going to be, I think, a couple hundreds. It will be in one color and different limited colored edition.
You know, I always like to say this, especially when we are here talking about in this area, either North America or South America, compared to Europe, because in Europe, vinyls are very popular. There is a high demanding among the fans to buy vinyls. I feel that that's not the case in our territory, America in general, but I hope that now after a lot of bands from North America, especially that goes to Europe for festivals and working with all these labels there in Europe are now, all of them are releasing vinyls now, and I believe that vinyls will become popular again here in North and South America.
Yeah, Yeah, I believe the same way. I think that the vinyls are becoming a very collectible item. Metal scene wants to have a vinyl of each release. And in Europe, it's very popular, as you said before. I think in North America, it's very popular too. Not in Latin America, because I think it's very expensive for us to have that kind of items. So sometimes we choose CDs. Vinyl is not that popular in South America, but I think that in the future, the vinyl will be once again very popular among the metalheads, of course.
Yeah, like in the 70s.
Yeah, that's right. The tape is also becoming very popular these days, like in the 80s.
Okay. Yes, the sense toward that as an invitation to a concept journey dragging you into the darkest and the most remote places of the human soul, reflecting an internal battle between aggressive and furious passages blended with dense and introspective landscape full of melancholic melodies. Saying this, Dany, how do you guys feel about this massive reaction from fans toward this great album I just described, Descent Toward Death, but not also from fans, but also from international magazines from all over the world that have given you outstanding score so far?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's something unbelievable. We worked so hard in this album. As you told before, it's a conceptual work. It's a conceptual album. I think that we put a lot into this album, and I think that people understood perfectly what we wanted to do with this. I think that we didn't invent the wheel. There is nothing, new with this album, but it's all our passion for music and for black metal is there. Just to read some comments from people who listen to the album and they understand very, very what we try to do with this. I thought that people might not get into lyrics, but they do. They get into lyrics. They read the whole album. They listen to from the beginning to the last track. So I think that people give the album the attention that we wanted to get for the listeners, not to promote the album, just to enjoy it. And we are really, really, really happy with the result and with the feedbacks that we have received so far.
Okay, that's very great, Dany. Seeking all the vaccination are going within, full speed around the world. How is this in Argentina?
Well, about this COVID thing, I think we're screwed like the rest of the world, pretty much. I get the vaccination, and a lot of people are getting the vaccination too, but, it's a long process.
How do you see it's going? I mean, the elderly people are getting first, and the people that are working at the hospital with the doctors, everything get vaccinated first. But do you see it's going on the right track and on a very good speed level?
I think that our government are doing their best, vaccinating, doctors and the older people, but we still have a lot of things to do, but we don't have enough vaccines that we need to. So I think that will give us problems, at least this year and maybe next year too. So
why my question? Because seeing that, let's cross the finger that this vaccination thing get better. Do you believe the band will be playing live at some point of time?
Well, Los Males del Mundo, it's a project that it was created to be a studio project. With Chris, we are working in another black metal project that is more focused to go on tour. I think we will have that album ready in a couple of months. Maybe this year we will have it ready. And if everything changes in the future with this COVID, we could go on tour with this new project, which is more focused to do live shows and tours.
So you mean to say, at least for now speaking, Los Males del Mundo will stay as a studio project?
Yeah, that's correct. For the moment, it will stay as a studio project. Maybe if we are touring with another band, with Chris, maybe we could do some tracks, like, like cover songs for ourselves. But Los Males del Mundo, it will remain a studio project, at least for the moment.
Okay. Dany, I want to thank you very much to have made this interview possible. And I want to hand you over the microphone of Madame Messiah Radio for you to invite all your friends, all your fans to support the band. And yes, to buy the band's debut full-length Descents Towards Death, which was released last February 26th via the Prestige Northern Silence production. Dany, my last question before we end this great interview. Tell us about this grim artwork done by Matt Lombard.
Well, Matt Lombard is a great artist. He worked with Cradle of Filth, Mortis, and a lot of great bands. And we get in touch with him and we talk about the concept of the work of this album. And he showed us a few photos that he has. And he started thinking about what could be the best images to this project. And as soon as he showed us this image, we knew that it was perfect for this album. So we are really, really happy because somehow at first glance, you can see the image and you know what's going on with this album and what it's about, So I think he did a great job with this and we are very, very happy with his work and probably will continue working together.
Is he also responsible for the EP cover artwork?
Yeah, he's responsible for that cover album too.
How about the band logo?
No, the band logo, I did it myself.
Okay, very creative.
Thank you. I try to do my best.
Okay, Dany, anything else you want to add to this interview? I mean, for future plans of the band, the album just have been released, but are you guys already, since being home with this COVID thing, are you guys already working on new material?
Yeah, we're working in this other project and I have to finish the other recordings too. And I think that we will release a new project this year and next year we will start working on the new album from Los Males del Mundo. So there's a lot of work to do.
Tell me, don't you want to reveal this project you're talking about on this show?
Yeah, it will be great. We don't have the name yet for that album, but it's going to be a black metal album with some atmospheric approaches. But I think that if you like Los Males del Mundo, I think you will love this new project as well. It's very different, but it's pretty much connected somehow.
You don't have a name for the album as yet, but you don't have a name for the project itself as yet?
We don't have the name, not even for the project, not even for the album. The tracks are there. That's something that we don't work that much. We try to focus on music and the name somehow will appear sooner or later.
But yeah, since we're talking about the band's name, I mean, Los Males del Mundo, where did you get this to create this name?
That was funny because we were working on this album and this project for maybe 3 years and we didn't have a name for it. So one day we were at the studio working and a friend of ours who was helping me with the translation of the lyrics sent me a message and he told me something like, I really like the lyrics because it looks like you are describing all the bad things, all the twisted things in the world. And when he told me that in a message, I looked to Chris and I said, this is it. It's like that. The project is describing pretty much Los Males del Mundo. So we have a name. So that's how we end up with that name.
Okay. Very, very interesting, man. To conclude this interview, the microphone of Madame Messiah Radio International is all yours to thank whomever you wants to thank.
Well, thank you very, very much for this interview. And I want to thank all the listeners from the Bloodshed and all the fans from Metal Messiah Radio International. So keep listening to the radio and thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else that you like to thanks, for making this great album possible?
Well, Well, we wanted to thank to Nikita, of course, and to Northern Silence for trust in our work since the beginning, So we are very, very grateful for this.
I would kindly ask you to say hello to Christian for me, please. Say hello to Nikita for me, please, Dany.
Yes, of course, I will. Thank you.
And yes, I wish you all the best with this great release. Sense toward that. I wish you all the best with this great studio project. And yes, I'm going to be in contact with you to talk about all these great other projects you are busy with. Please don't hesitate to contact us for any kind of promotion you need, because you really deserve. And we are here to work with you. And it's a pleasure to have this great opportunity to talk to you. And once again, I wish you all the best for all your future plans.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And of course, we'll keep in touch for the next releases and for the next project, of course.
Okay, Dany, all the best. And like I always say, metal on. Bye-bye.
Metal on. Bye-bye. Thank you.